In the United States, a woman was killed and two people resulted injured in a shooting at a university in the state of Louisiana. The death toll for torrential rains, floods, and landslides rose to 100 in Brazil's state of Pernambuco. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi warned that the United States will harm itself if it does not change its position on Taiwan and does not adhere to the One China policy. Hi, this is From the South. I am your news anchor, Dio Martin, from the teleSUR studios in Havana. We begin with the news. In the United States, a woman was killed and two people were injured in a shooting at a university in the state of Louisiana. The incident occurred during a graduation ceremony on the campus of Xavier University in New Orleans. Police authorities detailed that a suspect was detained at the scene while they reported the beginning of investigations to determine how many people were shot. This violent incident is the second to take place at the same venue in the last 11 days. In addition to this, so far this year, there were 230 mass shootings in 34 states in the country. In Brazil, the death toll from rains, floods, and landslides in the state of Pernambuco rose to 100. Authorities confirmed the figure on Tuesday and noted that 16 people are still missing and more than 600,000 are homeless. Rescue teams also warned that the search efforts were interrupted several times during the day due to the risk of new landslides in the area. These search efforts are being led by the fire department, the civil defense, as well as the armed forces and the federal police. Speaking of that, Tropical Storm Agatha downgraded to a low-pressure system after making landfall in Mexico on Monday. According to the National Weather Service, the storm that had touched the Mexican coast as a Category 2 hurricane on Monday will continue to cause torrential rains, mainly in the southeastern states of Mexico. The states of Chiapas, Tabasco, Oaxaca, and the south of Veracruz will be the most rain-affected regions due to their tendencies to generate landslides and floods. Authorities foresee that the rains will also affect the state of Campeche and Quintana Roo. Now, Latin America, as we've seen, remains on alert for heavy rains and storms affecting the region due to climate change. Hurricane Agatha weakened to a tropical depression in the last hours, though at least 200 municipalities in Mexico are on alert. Authorities in Honduras and Guatemala forecast an increase in rainfall due to the indirect effects of this natural phenomenon. In Brazil, at least 93 people lost their lives and more than 20 are missing as a result of the floods of the last days in the state of Pernambuco. In other news, the Somali government said that the country is facing the worst drought in decades and that it creates a situation of food insecurity for the more than 6 million people. On a statement, the Somali Drought and Climate Change Special Envoy Abdi Rahman Abdi Shakur Warsame said that amidst the prolonged drought, 6.1 million Somalis are facing an extreme level of food insecurity. Furthermore, due to a worsening hunger crisis, about 330,000 children are suffering from acute severe malnutrition. In this regard, the Somali official called on all concerned parties to increase efforts to support the affected communities. The Executive Secretary of the Bolivarian Alliance for the Peoples of Our Americas, ALBA-TCP, Sacha Llorenti, described the 9th Summit of the Americas as a failure. In his press release, Llorenti explained that the organization of this forum, which will be held in the city of Los Angeles between the 6th and 10th of June, failed due to its instrumentalization. He considered that the cause of this failure is the exclusion of countries promoted by the government of the United States. The Executive Secretary of ALBA-TCP recalled the almost joint rejection to this policy of exclusion by several Latin American and Caribbean countries, while stressing that despite this, the White House ratified that under no circumstances would it invite Cuba, Nicaragua, or Venezuela to the event. In this sense, he maintained that the veto confirms Washington's unwillingness to change its hostility towards these nations. And in El Salvador, the Bloc of Resistance and Popular Rebellion called for a march against the government of President Nayib Bukele on the 1st of June. The mobilization seeks to express rejection against the social regression the country has been living during the first 3 years of the government of President Nayib Bukele. The organization announced that it will mobilize against the dismantling of democracy and human rights institutions and the lack of access to information. The organization also added that the current government has cut funds for the construction of public works, improvement of basic services, and has cancelled various social programs while questioning the number of people captured during the emergency regime. And Bahamas' Prime Minister Philip Davis requested Monday that measures be applied against the trafficking of arms from the United States to the Bahamas and the Caribbean. In his opening message at the 36th Annual General Meeting and Conference of Caribbean Police Commissioners, Davis stated that more than 90% of the confiscated murder weapons in the Bahamas can be traced back to U.S. manufacturers and gun shops. The Prime Minister reminded U.S. authorities that the right to bear arms in the United States does not mean the right to traffic those arms to Caribbean countries, and asked President Joe Biden to intervene in the matter. According to police, March was one of the months with the highest number of homicides in the nation, with 22 people murdered. Authorities also reported the seizure of nearly 172 firearms this year. We're going to take a short break now. Please join us again after this. Hi, and welcome back to From the South. The president of Peru, Pedro Castillo, announced that he will present a bill before Congress to eliminate immunity of all high government officials following an investigation for alleged corruption charges against him launched by the Attorney General's office. The head of state shared his decision while meeting with the Council of Ministers in a decentralized session in the Amazonian region of Loreto. Castillo emphasized it was a way to ensure transparency during the investigation, and therefore every high official of the state should submit to justice. The Attorney General's office has been investigating the head of state for alleged corruption charges related to the irregular purchase of biodiesel, for pressuring promotions in the military branch, and for using funds allegedly coming from a mafia network to build a bridge in the San Martin region.
We are going to present a bill to eliminate immunity for all high government officials. They want transparency and an investigation. Let us be transparent. The executive branch, the legislative branch, the judiciary, the public ministry, and all government officials, to make the country transparent and also to work together.
The opposition in Peru filed a constitutional complaint against Vice President Dina Boluarte with the purpose of disqualifying her. According to Congress's Subcommittee of Constitutional Claims, the accusation process has already begun after the case was approved for the technical team to elaborate an admissibility report. Boluarte, also Minister of Development and Social Inclusion, is accused of being president of the Departmental Club of Apurima and of allegedly violating Article 126 of the Constitution, which establishes that ministers of state cannot manage their own interests or those of third parties, nor exercise lucrative activities, nor intervene in the direction or management of companies or private associations. The Vice President of Peru, Dina Boluarte, ruled out on Tuesday that she will resign after the complaints presented by the opposition in Congress for an alleged violation of the Constitution. The official pointed out that from the first moment they won the elections, the opposition have been looking for a pretext to ask for a vacancy and attack the government of President Pedro Castillo. On May 23rd, the General Comptroller's Office pointed out that the Vice President, who also serves as Minister of Development and Social Inclusion, has violated Article 126 of the Constitution for having signed documents as President of the Apurima Departmental Club. The government of Argentina on Tuesday reached an agreement with the Paris Club to defer debt payments until September 30th, 2024. The Argentinian Ministry of Economy explained that it agreed to postpone the payment of the debt amounting to more than $2.4 billion with the Clé de Paris in order to renegotiate a new agreement with the president of the institution, Emmanuel Moulin. The executive of Buenos Aires explained that the new extension of the deadline was formalized in a decree of necessity and urgency. The government of Argentina undertakes this negotiation after restructuring the payment of the debt contracted with the International Monetary Fund during the government of former President Mauricio Macri. The Russian military found a truck with 152 bodies of Ukrainian soldiers in the cellars of the Azovstal plant in Mariupol. The information was provided by the spokesman of the Russian Ministry of Defense, Igor Konashenkov, who declared on Tuesday that the Russian military found in the cellars of the iron and steel plant an isothermal truck containing 152 corpses of Ukrainian soldiers. According to the spokesman, 4 mines were found under the bodies, and their explosive charge would be enough to destroy all the remains in the vehicle. Now, Konashenkov also said the surrendering fighters of the Azov battalion confessed that the laying off the devices was carried out by direct order of Kiev in order to blame Russia for the deliberate removal of the remains and not allow their transfer to the relatives. Russia's state-owned gas company Gazprom on Tuesday suspended gas supplies to the Dutch operator Gazprom. The Dutch company will stop receiving Russian gas after refusing to make payments in rubles. Gazprom claimed that complying with Moscow's payment policies could violate European Union sanctions and that the payment route posed too many financial and operational risks. In a statement, the Russian gas company said that the suspension of hydrocarbon supplies to Gazprom will continue until payments are made in accordance with the plan proposed by the national government. Gazprom, for its part, declared that it bought from another supplier the 2 billion cubic meters of gas that it expected to receive from Gazprom until October. We have more news coming up after a final short break. Please stay with us. Hi and welcome back. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi warned that the United States will harm itself if it does not change its position on Taiwan and does not adhere to the One China principle. The official pointed out that the Chinese-U.S. relations cannot deteriorate any further while stressing that the extreme anxiety of the United States is totally unnecessary, like chill out. The diplomat invited the U.S. government to put aside the Cold War mentality and reiterated that the U.S. government is only focused on its development. Wang Yi warned that if Washington blindly leans toward relations based on great power competition with Taiwan, it will only push China and the United States into confrontation and conflict, as well as the whole world into division and turmoil. The government of India sent more than 400,000 tons of diesel to Sri Lanka to relieve the severe fuel shortage in the country. New Delhi also reported that in April it extended an additional $500 million line of credit to Colombo for fuel imports, as the island nation's foreign exchange reserves have plummeted drastically in recent times. This fuel import credit line is a lifeline for Sri Lanka, which is currently experiencing an acute economic crisis, unprecedented since its independence in 1948. In this regard, Indian authorities reported that in the first months of the year, India provided more than $3.5 billion in support to the people of Sri Lanka. The presidents of Iran and Tajikistan called for the withdrawal of foreign troops from the region as they guarantee neither security nor stability in Central Asia. Iranian President Ebrahim Raisi on Monday said foreign troops have stirred social unrests in the region, and he stressed the importance of regional countries joining efforts to resolve their own conflicts. Raisi made the remarks at a press conference in the Iranian capital, Tehran, after meeting with Tajik President Emomali Rahmon. In addition, the two heads of state said that cooperation with neighboring countries is conducive to enhancing regional security, as Iran and Tajikistan share common views on combating terrorism, drugs, and crime.
The presence of foreign troops cannot and will never foster regional security. Problems in the region must be resolved through dialogues, negotiations, and meetings between officials and country leaders of the region.
In this regard, Raisi referred to the situation in Afghanistan and condemned the United States and NATO for never having taken into consideration the security of the Afghan people, but only their own political objectives and interests.
So far, the presence of foreign forces in Afghanistan has not provided security. During those 20 years, the presence of the United States and the North Atlantic Treaty Organization only brought wars and resulted in wars, bloodshed and destruction. The future of Afghanistan must be decided by the people of Afghanistan.
Nabih Berri was re-elected as Speaker of the Lebanese Parliament Tuesday morning with 65 votes out of 128 total deputies in the newly formed parliament. 84-year-old Berri heads the Amal movement and has been a close ally of the Hezbollah movement. According to the Lebanese constitution, the quorum necessary to be appointed as parliament speaker is 65 votes, and whoever gets a relative majority wins. Just 2 weeks after parliamentary elections were held, the brand new Congress also voted for the vice presidency of the legislative body and formed the parliamentary committees. The Tunisian Trade Union Center, known as UGTT by its acronym, announced a nationwide public sector strike on June 16th to protest against soaring inflation and prevent the privatization of major state-owned companies. Now, the announcement comes at a time when the country is wallowing in a deep economic crisis, and the government is counting on the support of the UGTT for the reform program it has submitted to the International Monetary Fund with the hope of obtaining new credit. The UGTT asked for guarantees that public companies will not be privatized. In its statement, the union accused President Kais Saied of undermining the principles of negotiation and reneging on previous agreements, while the country is facing continuous price rises with inflation at 7.5%. We've come to the end of this news brief. Remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website at teleSUR English. You can also join us on social media for all the latest news. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. For teleSUR English, I am Dio Martin. Thank you for watching.